Hi, and welcome to episode number 3 of Libations with Linda. I am Linda, and with me today is my wife, Lauri. Hi, Lauri.
Hi.
And Lauri's got an interesting story to share with us today. But before we get to that, let's mention what our libation is today. Lauri has selected Ménage à Trois Midnight, which is a red blend from 2013 grapes. And it is
Delicious.
generally quite delicious when we've had it in the past. Definitely delicious. So today, our story is talking about life in the Air Force, particularly when you're gay. And that does not apply to me. The military and I came nowhere near each other, but Lauri spent a couple of years in the Air Force.
I did.
And so when you went into the Air Force, you didn't know you were gay, correct?
That is correct. I had no idea. My recruiter had asked me if I was gay because that was not allowed in the military, and I said, no, absolutely not. No way.
Okay, so you went into the military thinking you were a straight girl.
Yes.
You'd had relationships with
I had boyfriends
and things like that, but they never got serious.
Well, I lived with a guy for about 6 months, and that didn't work out, but yeah, no.
Okay. So you went into basic training in Mississippi.
No, in Texas.
Texas, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And when you were there in basic training, you said it was only, about 8 weeks, 12 weeks into your time?
Basic training was 8 weeks.
Okay, so it was shortly after basic training that you had the revelation that maybe you were gay.
Yeah, probably about a month to 6 weeks after basic.
Okay. And what happened to kind of make the light bulb go off in your head go on? See, I still get that metaphor.
Well, there was a woman that I had seen, but she was part of a group of women who were 2 weeks ahead of me as far as graduating wise went. And I just thought she was beautiful, and I always wanted to go talk to her because she always seemed like she was having a good time. And after I got out of basic training, we went to our tech schools, which mine was located in Biloxi, Mississippi. And lo and behold, that same woman was at that school and in my dorm building. And so we ran into each other and got to know each other. And that's how I met my first girlfriend, as it were.
Right. And how did she make you realize you were gay?
Well, I feel like I'm a pretty open-minded person, and so she told me that back home she had a girlfriend, and so I was like, oh, okay. Didn't really matter to me because we were just hanging out, having fun, laughing about a bunch of stuff. And then, as I got to know her, I just thought she was, really fun and cool. And so how did I get to figure out that perhaps I like girls? One night we decided we were going to go walk down on the beach, which was right outside of the base gate, less than half a mile. And we sat out there and we talked for a while and made little sand seats and stuff. And at some point during the conversation, she asked if she could give me a kiss. And I was like, sure. So she gave me a kiss. And when she did, all the lights and fireworks were going off. And I'm like, wow, this is what all the shouting is about. Who knew? Certainly not me.
It's funny how many women I've spoken to have had that kind of experience where it took some sort of event for, the knowledge to suddenly be there. And
well, yeah, considering I was 21 at the time, I figured, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
So at that point in time, this is before Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So the military policy was that if you were gay, you couldn't serve, but it wasn't a law. So
Correct.
The differences between what happened with Don't Ask, Don't Tell was that they had a little bit of discretion as to whether they would actually investigate somebody or not. And if you were found to be gay, then you got a dishonorable discharge. With Don't Ask, Don't Tell, they lost that discretion, and it wasn't a dishonorable discharge anymore. So, how long after you had this revelation that you were gay did you see the first person or group of people get discharged because they were gay?
Oh, not very long after the light was turned on, shall we say. I would say probably within about 6 weeks, because my tech school was about 6 months long, and it was shortly after I got there when a group of women, I'm going to say 10 to 12 minimum, all got busted one night and got kicked out.
And do you know what the circumstances were about what triggered the investigation?
I don't really know because they were in a different wing. All I know is that I was in the leadership barracks, and it could be that their tech training was at a different school than mine, even though they're all clustered around the building. And so they were all lodged together in a wing.
Okay.
Whereas the electronics division were generally in my wing.
So I think if I remember from our earlier discussions, you said this was basically an entire softball team worth of women that was discharged all at once. That they got one and then went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through the rest of the team. Is my understanding correct?
Pretty much. Quite a few of them were on a softball team. I'm going to say about 6 of them. Mm-hmm. And but a lot of their friends, again, were in the same wing or in neighboring dorms. And I don't know why all of a sudden they were under investigation. I was warned to stay away from them because they were very gregarious women, and they appeared like they didn't care about, I don't care if you know I'm gay or not. You know, it was that kind of attitude. Yeah. So even though I had just found out about myself, I kind of stepped back a little bit. I mean, I still talked to them. I was friendly with them. I've been once to a few of the games, but I didn't hang out with them, as it were.
So you were only in the Air Force for a couple of years, but during that time, how frequently did you see or hear of women getting discharged? It was like once every 4 to 6 weeks, I think, if I recall our earlier conversation.
Yeah, I would say probably about every 6 weeks, easily. And it was mainly the women. It was rare to hear of guys getting kicked out, but I'm sure there were, because I knew a lot of guys. Also, I didn't just hang out with the lesbians.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was quite frequent.
Okay. So, when you then talked about the kind of things that you were worried about when you were yourself going through your military time, did you ever worry about getting investigated? Did anybody close to you ever get investigated?
I wasn't worried for myself. If I got found out, I knew it wouldn't be the end of the world because my ego was pretty good. And I figured I would just go find something else to do. So I wasn't worried about it. But I did have friends that were petrified they were going to be found out. And it was like, shh, don't tell anybody. You know, I like you as a friend, but don't ever tell anybody that I'm gay. And I'm like, okay.
So you served at a few different bases during your time. Obviously, you were in Texas and Colorado and Mississippi and North Dakota or Idaho or something.
Idaho. Mm-hmm.
So you served in a bunch of very geographically different places.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that there was a difference in the way that were people investigated more in one place than the other, or was it pretty equal no matter where you were?
No, I found it to be pretty equal. The thing that to me made any kind of difference at all was how remote the base was and the neighborhood that you were in, because if you were in a quote-unquote redneck area or a remote area, and you didn't cooperate with the good old boy system that the Air Force generally is, it was a lot easier to be pinned as a lesbian, whether you were or not, and be investigated and get kicked out.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a good segue for me to talk about this book, Secret Service by Zsa Zsa Gershick. It was written in 2005, so this was when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was still something that people in the military had to worry about. And this is the story of women who were gay in the military, and sometimes people who were not gay in the military, but were discharged because it was believed that they were. And it goes through several decades of stories, and it's really, really interesting because it talks about, some women were gay and they managed to fly under the radar, or the gaydar in this case, and make it through their whole career and never have a problem. But there were other women who, had served anywhere from a fairly short period of time to a long period of time and ended up getting kicked out. And there were plenty of straight women who were kicked out because it was believed that they were gay. We know someone who was in the military, and she's a straight woman, and she saw many instances of women who were competing for jobs with men, and if the men didn't like the competition, they would then sometimes, if they weren't very ethical, put in a complaint that this woman was gay, and it would at the very least be a problem for her to deal with while she was trying to compete for this job. So,
well, not only just that job, but any future jobs that came along, because the seed had already been planted. And so you were pretty much doomed if that innuendo even came out about you.
So with all this potential problem, how did you then actually use why did you use your Air Force ID at one of the gay bars?
Well, because where I was stationed was on the other side of the country from Maine, and that was the only ID that I had. I didn't have a need for a driver's license because I didn't have my car. We were not allowed our cars on base at the time. And so that was the only ID I had. And when I took my ID to one of the bars in Denver to show the woman there, she looked at me and just kind of chuckled and said, "Air Force, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." And I kind of laughed. I said, "That's the only ID I got." And she just kind of laughed and said, "Go ahead." But I mean, what was she going to do? Turn me in? I don't think so. I like to drink beer.
It's just not the sort of thing you expect to see happen, so it makes it great.
I've done a lot of unexpected things, so.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Ménage à Trois.
Please.
This is a wine that we discovered some of their other, the Pinot Noir, I think.
And their cab.
And the Cabernet Sauvignon that they had that we both enjoyed. And what made you pick out this one?
I just like the blend. It's not quite it's almost a full taste in the mouth, and I like the full-bodied wines. And it just really goes well with a lot of food, steaks, even fish, really. I mean, it's delicious.
Yeah, I'd call this a medium-bodied red. It's very smooth, not very tannic at all.
No.
And, served it at the, 60 degree, around that range, it makes a quite delicious red wine, whether with food or without. So this is our libation today. I hope you enjoy yours, Lauri.
I enjoyed mine.
Thank you for joining me for this today.
My pleasure.
And take care, everyone.
Bye.